today we're going to learn how we can create this really cool effect where we look like our heads are almost like stackable toys or like sitting inside one another. So what we're going to learn today is first how to, again, review selections, so how to select something from its background. Then we're going to learn how we can use the lasso tool to make these cutouts of our head. We're going to learn how to add a fill layer, which is going to be, if I hide this here for you, see if I can hide this top one, okay, which is going to be these little inserts that make our head look hollow. And then we're going to learn how we can create these highlights that make our head look almost like it's three-dimensional. All right. So what we're going to do is we're first going to create a new document. All right, so I'm going to go File, New. We're going to make this 12 inches wide and 18 inches high. I'll make the resolution 180, and then I'll click Create. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add my photo that I downloaded or airdropped to my computer, which is in my downloads. So I have my photo here. You can just drag yours right from the desktop, and boom, I got my photo in there that I'm going to use for this assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and click the checkbox here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually add, I'm going to grab my quick selection tool. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 tools down from the top of the tool menu. I'm going to click Select Subject. And that's going to get a pretty good outline. And now I'm going to hit Command C on my keyboard and Command V. And if we look in our layers menu on the right, you'll notice that I have created a copy. So I will delete that middle one. And there we go. So now we have our layer. So what we're going to do now is learn how we can go ahead and actually cut my head out. But I'm going to first actually look at this here. My hair is kind of weird, so I'm going to clean that up. So one of the ways that we can easily clean up a selection is through layer masking. So I'm going to click on my layer, and I'm going to add a layer mask from the bottom of my layer menu. It's the box with the dot. I'm going to grab a paintbrush and make sure I have black paint on top. I'm just going to clean up some of this. Just get this kind of nicely erased. So I'm just kind of clicking and erasing some of this excess. Oops. Some of this excess nonsense around my head, just like that. Looks good. Awesome. Now, I'm going to make sure that my photo is active in the layers menu. So to do that, I'm going to make sure here in my layers menu that I click on the little picture icon, not the layer mask. So now the next thing is we're going to create the cutout of our head. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab a lasso tool, and I'm going to actually draw. I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to draw kind of a little cutout here. Kind of like so. But I don't want it to just be straight across. I want it to have kind of like a cool little kind of like dip to it. And then I'm going to go all the way around back to where I started, and I have a selection. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Layer, New, Layer via Cut. And if you look, I've now grabbed my Move tool. I've now cut my head open. Kind of cool. I don't need this top piece, so I can delete that. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create this little section that looks like a piece inside my head. So to do that, I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I'm actually going to draw kind of like a selection. That was kind of bad. I'm going to start on one end, and I'm going to draw it around kind of like that. And then I'll just go back down here. Perfect. So you want those corners to match up really good so that it looks realistic. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Edit. I gotta add my new layer. Make sure I have a new layer here. Okay, make sure you have a new layer. We don't want to fill it on our picture. I'm gonna go to Edit, Fill. I'm gonna choose Color. And I'm gonna choose something that's like a blood color, right? Like the inside of our head, kind of gross, but something kind of like that would be good. And click OK. Now you're gonna notice that the head piece is actually on top of my picture layer. I want it below. And now I'm gonna hit Command D to get rid of the dancing ants. I'll get my Move tool. I can kind of move this. I can kind of resize it if we need to. Kind of rotate it and get it into place here. Kind of like that. And make sure that there's nothing overhanging the edges, and boom. So you're gonna wanna make yours a little bit deeper. I kind of drew mine a little bad here, but not a problem. I can actually add a layer mask to this as well. And I can erase some of this edge here, make this look a little bit neater. Make sure this is 100%. Kind of like so. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some shadowing to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add another layer in between my face and my kind of inside head piece. I'm going to grab a brush. I'm going to make sure that the opacity is really low and the softness of the brush is 0%. The hardness. I'm going to make sure I have black paint. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to brush. Ooh. I'm just going to brush towards the bottom edge of this. That's going to give it some nice kind of shadowing to make it look like it's kind of three-dimensional, essentially. All right. And now lastly, I'm going to add a layer style to make my head look three-dimensional. So I'm going to click on my head layer, my face layer. I'll double click. And I'm going to go to Bevel and Emboss. And if you look, that actually has kind of like an edge already. So the style, we can kind of play around with the style. That looks kind of weird. Let's go with Emboss. That looks kind of good. What about Pillow Emboss? Or Stroke Emboss? No, I kind of like the Pillow Emboss. No. There we go. So now you can choose like the depth of it, how big it is. We don't want a lot going around on the outside of our heads, so we just want it to have the emboss right on that edge. That looks pretty good right there. Okay, you can change the angle of it, but I kind of like it right around that 78, 80. You can choose, you're going to want highlight mode to be normal. That way it doesn't affect anything on the outside of our heads. Okay, it's only affecting kind of that top edge. Shadow mode can be normal. Make the opacity good and click OK. And then lastly, we're going to do the same thing with this headpiece layer. So I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to go to Bevel and Emboss and just check the same thing. And now my head looks like it's hollow. So today's objective is to get your first head into Photoshop, get it sliced the way that you want it, get it cut open like you want it, and add that realistic detail to make the head look hollow. All right, best of luck. And tomorrow we'll talk about how to add more heads to this. All right, see you guys soon.